All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in this episode of Skyhook Garage. Today we got a 1995 7.3 turbo diesel Ford E350. As you can see, I'm in here, got the doghouse off, about ready to get this turbo out of the way. So today what we got is, with this vehicle, the issue is it has a diesel fuel leak in the valley down there. It's pretty common on these vehicles. So what we got here is, if I can get the light down in there, got a bunch of moisture down in there. It's kind of hard to see, but the one line down there and the block down there where the banjo fitting is going to be replaced. Probably just the seals, but once we get it apart, we'll get a better idea what's going on. So if you got a diesel fuel leak, a lot of times that blue hose down there, it's hard to see in the video, but once we get down there, I'll show you better. The hose tends to leak, cracks, dry rots over time. That tends to leak. And also, you got that banjo fitting. You can see down in there the big nut with the line, high pressure line that goes to it. That tends to leak. There's seals down there that leak too. We'll get to that point shortly. But first step is, got to get this turbo out of the way. And the nice part being that it's the doghouse style with the van, it's a little bit easier to get the turbo out. So there's a ton of videos online about how to get these turbos out. They're all pretty straightforward. Some of the bolts are hard to get to. Other ones are pretty easy. So first step is up top here. You got 4 holes. You got a 13 here, another 13 here. Got a stud back there. It's going to have a 15mm nut on it. Another guy over on that side. Once you get them off, the next step is to get the wastegate mount bolts out, and those are kind of the pain in the ass ones. You got one down there. All right. Swivel, 1/4 inch, 10mm. Sometimes you can get in there. Sometimes you can get a 3/8 on there if you don't have a real fat one. I got this guy right down here. It worked on this bolt, on that one, but this guy over here was even more of a pain in the butt. I needed to use a 1/4 inch with an extension. Get on that one. Also, what you can do sometimes too is if you come down in here, you can get at them with a wrench down here from underneath. Put it on upside down. Get it down in here like that. Right. Get on the bolt down there, and you can crack them loose. Get them loose. Once they pop loose, they come out real easy. Once they get loose, then you could put a swivel on there with your hand or whatever, and you could take them out pretty easily. I got these the Y pipe mount here, pipe mount right here. I have these taken off. I'm gonna have to do exhaust manifolds on this turd also. As you can see, one's leaking on this side, and the other side looks like it's been in the bottom of the ocean too. So I got to do them. That's why those are starting to come off, but that'll be a different video. So once you get those 2 bolts in the back out, you got 2 up front. They're pretty straightforward. They're a lot easier to get to. You got one right there. All right, and then you got another one. See if I can get down in here and find it. Got another one right there, right below that harness there. Another 10mm. Those 2 again, just like the back ones, they come out real easy. No issues there. Once you get all of those out, so you got the 4 mounts up top here. You got the 4 wastegate bolts down underneath there. You got to take the clamp off the inlet portion, obviously. Also the clamp off the outbound side. It's just a quick band clamp right there. That'll come off. All right, and the same thing over here with the outboard down pipe for the exhaust. Now a lot of guys are taking these off. All right, the 3 bolts, one here, one down here, and then there's one on the back side of it over here. They're taking that off to be able to get down to these bolts down here better. That's up to you. I personally, being that this vehicle's, 20 years old plus or whatever it might be, and I believe this motor setup was 94.5 to 2000, I'm sorry, not 2000, 97, this exact setup. After 97, they changed things a little bit, but regardless, I don't want to go taking these out simply because if I snap this, then I got to worry about taking this in and trying to get those bolts tapped and or drilled out, and then put an extractor in there to get the rest of that broken bolt out. Don't want to do that. That's a lot more work than we're looking to do today. So once you get that apart, turbo, it'll slide, come right out. And the only issue I had was this guy down here, this one bolt. I couldn't get it out of the wastegate block until I moved the turbo out of the way a little bit. So get the turbo push back a little bit, and then you'll be able to snake that out. So just bear that in mind when you're going back together. So we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll hopefully have this turbo out and get a better look at what's going on down in there in the valley. Alright, so got the turbo out. As you can see, got that Y pipe piece out. Turbo's out of there. And I had to get that Y pipe piece out anyway. Where we got it? Right here. I had to take that out anyway in order to get the turbo out of the cavity there between the top of the doghouse and the bottom there. There was no way I could get it out towards me without removing that piece. So tapped it a couple times either side with a brass hammer and worked it slowly back and forth to get it out. The idea to get it out easily would be to remove one side or the other down by the manifold there, but those look pretty crusty and I wasn't willing to tackle them at the moment. So regardless, got that piece out, got the turbo out, and as you can see, I've already removed the fuel pump from inside there. I'm going to bolt in there because I didn't drain that fuel bowl properly. Should have had that drained. Ended up dumping more fuel down in there when I pulled that pump out of the way. So another thing I did was I removed the two tubes and the top tube piece that was on the inlet sides of the either side of the manifold, and then also the Y pipe turbo coming out of the Y pipe tube coming out of the top of the turbo, which is this guy down here. It sits in there, kind of sort of like that. So I got that out of the way, gave me some more room. And once I did that, got that other exhaust Y piece out, the turbo pretty much came out, no issues there. So looking down in there, let's see if we can get a close-up of that hose. So all those cracks and stuff, those cause leaks. Over time, hose cracks and starts producing some leaks. But what I did notice was on the pump right here, all right, the weep hole down there looked like when I was from above, it looked like it was dribbling, kind of right around this area. And as you can see, the buildup and residue and stuff right there was probably coming out of that weep hole, out of the bottom of that weep hole. But regardless of all that, what I ended up finding was when I was taking it out, you got to be careful. You want this piece to come out straight out. So real quick, this was my problem. Bottom plunger piece that comes up, rides on the cam lobe down there, actuates the pump right there, ended up breaking off on me. And I'm not sure if that was a pre-existing condition. I'm gonna err on the side of it was me not pulling it out properly. But this guy sits down right about down in there. It's kind of in the way with the hoses still hooked up. But what you want to do with it, more importantly, with how much of that plunger sticks down in there, you definitely want to pull this. You want to pull this pump straight out. You don't want to work it side to side. That's what I ended up doing, and I think that's why it broke on it. But yeah, you definitely want to try to avoid that. So big banjo bolt right there comes out. It's laying down in there. All right, get that guy out of the way, and then it'll be free to come straight out. So probably the best bet is to take those hoses completely off. That way you can lift that thing straight out of that bore there. You can see the cam down in there where that plunger on that pump rides on. So once you get the hoses out of the way, you're able to pull that straight up and out. That way you don't have any issues. Get a flat-headed screwdriver underneath that mount side and that other bolt side and just carefully wiggle it back and forth. It sits on an O-ring right here in the plunger there, so it shouldn't be too much of an issue coming straight out. I'm kind of surprised that it did that because I wasn't yuxing on it too hard, but who knows. I mean, it's, as you can see, it's shit material, that shit aluminum freaking cast stuff that it's made out of. And even the fact that the plunger itself also broke, that to me, you know, might mean that something was going on there. But the fact that it broke off perfectly clean with either piece, I think I was you know, torquing on it too much. So definitely come straight out with that. You don't want to go crazy with it and you end up in this situation, especially if, you know, if you're not in the position I'm at, where I'm pretty sure that that's bad already. I'm pretty sure it's leaking. But if you're in the situation where that definitely wasn't leaking you know, and you just had literally a $3 hose, that blue guy down there leaking on you, it'd be a bad day to end up breaking that and have to shell out that money to put it in. So when we come back, I'll have a new pump, get that installed, and start going back together. Another quick thing too, while we're here, is this is the side where the turbo pedestal was mounted down onto, and definitely want to either cover them. You definitely want to cover that hole. That's going to be important to make sure that there's no debris going down in there. All right, so probably in the meantime too, we'll get some new O-rings for that and get that all squared away. So until next time, I'll be back shortly. Thanks.